I never thought I'd wake up in a hospital bed, missing a kidney, with a mafia boss holding my hand and crying. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Elena Martinez. I'm 28 years old, and 6 months ago, I was just a maid working in the mansion of the most dangerous man in the city. Today, I'm the only person he's ever loved. But getting here, that's a story written in red paint and sacrifice. 6 months ago, I was desperate. My mother was dying of cancer, my younger brother needed tuition money for college, and I was 3 months behind on rent. I had 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and waitressing during the day, but it still wasn't enough. That's when I saw the job posting, housekeeper wanted. Live-in position. Excellent pay. Discretion required. The address was in the wealthy hills overlooking the city. I should have known something was off when the salary was triple what any normal housekeeping job paid. But I was desperate, and desperate people don't ask questions. I showed up for the interview wearing my only good dress, a simple black one I'd worn to my father's funeral 2 years earlier. The mansion was massive, white stone, tall gates, security cameras everywhere, guards in dark suits standing at the entrance. A stern woman named Mrs. Chen interviewed me in a pristine kitchen that looked like it had never been used. "You'll be responsible for maintaining the entire house," she said, not looking up from my resume. "You will not ask questions about Mr. Volkov's business. You will not enter his private office without permission. You will not speak to visitors unless spoken to first. You will be invisible." Understood? Yes, Mr. Volkov values loyalty above all else. If you prove trustworthy, you'll be well compensated. If you betray his trust, she finally looked up at me, her eyes cold. Well, let's just say the last person who stole from this house was never found. I should have run. But I thought of my mother in that hospital bed, her frail hand holding mine, whispering, "Don't worry about me, Mija. You take care of yourself." "I understand," I said. "When do I start?" I met Dmitri Volkov on my 3rd day. I was cleaning the grand staircase, massive marble steps that seemed to go on forever, when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and nearly dropped my cleaning supplies. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair slicked back, piercing grey eyes, and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He wore an expensive black suit, and there was something dangerous in the way he moved, like a predator that knew he owned everything he saw. But what struck me most was how tired he looked. Despite the expensive clothes and the powerful presence, there were dark circles under his eyes, and his skin had an unhealthy pallor. "You're the new maid," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir. Elena Martinez." I kept my eyes down, remembering Mrs. Chen's instructions about being invisible. "Look at me when I speak to you." I raised my eyes. Up close, I could see the exhaustion more clearly. He looked like a man who hadn't slept properly in months. "How old are you?" 28, sir. "You have family?" The question surprised me. "Yes, sir. My mother and younger brother." He studied me for a long moment, those grey eyes seeming to see straight through me. Then he nodded once and walked past, leaving behind the scent of expensive cologne and something I couldn't quite place, something medicinal. Over the next few weeks, I learned the rhythm of the house. I cleaned, I cooked simple meals that often went uneaten, I stayed invisible. I saw things I wasn't supposed to see, men in suits coming and going at odd hours, conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered rooms, envelopes that I knew contained money or worse. But I also saw Dmitri Volkov at his most human. Late at night, when he thought everyone was asleep, I'd hear him in his study. Sometimes it was the clink of a glass, he drank too much. Sometimes it was the sound of papers being thrown. Once, I heard something that sounded like crying, but I convinced myself I'd imagined it. And I noticed he was getting worse. The circles under his eyes deepened. His hands sometimes trembled when he thought no one was watching. He barely ate the meals I prepared. One evening, I found him collapsed on the floor of his office. I should have called Mrs. Chen. I should have gotten one of the guards. But something made me kneel beside him instead, checking his pulse the way my mother had taught me when I used to volunteer at the hospital. His eyes fluttered open. "Elena, you fainted, Mr. Volkov. I should call a doctor." No, his hand gripped my wrist with surprising strength. No doctors. They ask too many questions. You're sick. You need help. I'm dying, he said flatly. Kidney failure. I've known for 6 months. I stared at him, shocked by his bluntness. There are treatments, transplants. He laughed bitterly. You think a man in my position can just walk into a hospital and get on a transplant list? I've made too many enemies. Half the doctors in this city would rather watch me die than save me. And the ones who would help, he closed his eyes. My red paint type is rare. O negative. The waiting list is years long. I have months. I'm sorry, I whispered, and I meant it. Despite everything, despite knowing who he was and what he probably did, I felt genuine sadness for this powerful man brought low by his own body. He opened his eyes and looked at me with something like curiosity. Why do you care? You barely know me. Because you're human. And no one deserves to die alone. Something shifted in his face. For just a moment, the dangerous mafia boss disappeared, and I saw a man who was terrified and lonely. Help me to the couch, he said finally. I did, supporting his weight as he struggled to stand. He was heavier than I expected, all muscle despite his illness. I settled him on the leather couch in his office and brought him water. Thank you, Elena, he said quietly. It was the first time he'd said my name with kindness. After that night, something changed between us. Dmitri stopped pretending he was fine. He let me bring him the medications he took, horrible cocktails of pills that made him nauseous. He let me cook him bland foods that his failing kidneys could tolerate. He even started talking to me. I learned he'd inherited his position from his father, who'd been even more ruthless than him. I never wanted this life, he admitted one evening. I wanted to be an architect. I used to draw buildings, imagine creating something beautiful instead of destroying things. It's not too late to change, I offered. He smiled sadly. For me, it is. I've done too much. Hurt too many people. This disease. It's probably karma. I don't believe in karma that cruel. Then you're kinder than God. I learned he had no real friends, only employees and associates who feared him. He had a younger sister in Europe who hadn't spoken to him in 5 years because she'd wanted out of the family business, and he'd let her go but cut all ties to protect her. Everyone I've ever cared about either leaves or dies, he said. It's safer not to care. That's a lonely way to live. It's the only way I know. I found myself staying later in his office, bringing him tea, sitting in the chair across from his desk while he worked. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we sat in comfortable silence. Mrs. Chen noticed. You're getting too close to him, she warned. It's not your place. He's dying, I said. Someone should be kind to him. Kindness is dangerous in this world. But I couldn't help it. Beneath the cold exterior, I saw glimpses of the man Dmitri might have been in another life. He was intelligent, well-read, surprisingly funny when he let his guard down. And he was so terribly alone. My mother died 3 months into my employment. I found out when the hospital called during my morning shift. I dropped the phone and collapsed in the hallway, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. Dmitri found me there. He didn't ask questions. He simply sat beside me on the floor and let me cry into his expensive suit jacket. When I could finally speak, I told him about my mother, how she'd raised us alone after my father died, how she'd worked 3 jobs to put food on the table, how she'd never complained even when the cancer ate her alive. She was the strongest person I ever knew, I whispered. And I wasn't there when she died. I was here, cleaning your house, and she died alone. I'm sorry, Dmitri said, and his voice was thick with genuine emotion. Take all the time you need. Your job will be here when you're ready. But the funeral was expensive. Even with my savings, I couldn't afford the burial my mother deserved. The next morning, I found an envelope on my bed. Inside was enough money to cover the funeral and 6 months of my brother's college tuition, plus extra. When I tried to thank Dmitri, he cut me off. Your mother raised a daughter who shows kindness to dying monsters. She deserves to be honored. I don't know when I started falling in love with him. Maybe it was the night he sat with me while I cried. Maybe it was the quiet evenings in his office. Maybe it was seeing the man beneath the monster. But I did fall. Deeply. Irrevocably. And that made what came next both easier and harder. 4 months into my employment, Dmitri collapsed during a meeting. I was in the kitchen when I heard the commotion, men shouting, furniture being knocked over. I ran to his office and found him on the floor, unconscious, his face grey and his breathing shallow. "Call an ambulance," I screamed. "No hospitals," one of his men said. "The boss's orders. He's dying. Call an ambulance now, or I swear I'll do it myself." They finally called. Dmitri was rushed to a private hospital, and I rode in the ambulance holding his hand. At the hospital, the doctors were blunt. Both kidneys were failing completely. Without a transplant within weeks, he would die. "We can put him on the transplant list," the doctor said, "but given his rare red paint type and his circumstances, it could take months or years." "How long does he have?" I asked. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. I sat in the waiting room, numb with shock. In just a few months, this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man had become the most important person in my life. And now he was dying. That's when I remembered my medical records from my volunteer days at the hospital. I was O negative. The same rare type as Dmitri. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. I went to the hospital the next day and asked to speak to Dmitri's doctor privately. "I want to be tested as a donor," I said. The doctor looked at me skeptically. "Are you family?" "No. But I'm willing." "Do you understand what you're offering? Kidney donation is major surgery. There are risks: infection, red paint clots, even death. And even if everything goes well, you'll live with 1 kidney for the rest of your life." "I understand. Why would you do this for him? Do you know who he is? What he's done?" "I know exactly who he is. And I'm doing it anyway." They ran the tests. I was a perfect match. Dmitri regained consciousness 2 days later. I was sitting beside his hospital bed when his eyes opened. "Elena." His voice was weak, raspy. "I'm here. You shouldn't be. It's not safe for you to be associated with me." "Too late for that." I took his hand. "Dmitri, I need to tell you something." I explained about the tests, about being a match, about the surgery that was scheduled for 3 days from now. His face went through a series of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger. "No," he said firmly. "Absolutely not. It's already decided. Elena, you don't understand what you're offering." "I understand perfectly. I'm giving you 1 of my kidneys so you can live." "But why? Why would you sacrifice so much for me?" I looked at him, this powerful, dangerous, dying man, and told him the truth. "Because I love you." The words hung in the air between us. "You can't," he whispered. "You can't love me. I'm a monster. I've hurt people. I've killed people. I don't deserve." "Maybe not. But I love you anyway." Tears filled his eyes, the second time I'd seen him cry. "I can't let you do this. You don't have a choice. I've already signed the papers." "Elena. Listen to me, Dmitri Volkov. You told me you've done terrible things. Maybe you have. But I've also seen you be kind. I've seen you be generous. I've seen you be human. And everyone deserves a second chance. Even you." He pulled my hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "If I survive this, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you." "Then survive." The surgery was scheduled for early morning. I wasn't afraid. I'd made peace with my decision. My brother, Carlos, found out and rushed to the hospital. "Are you insane? You're giving a kidney to a mafia boss." "I'm giving a kidney to a man I love." "Elena, he's dangerous. So is losing someone you love." "I already lost Mom. I can't lose him too." Carlos looked at me for a long moment, then hugged me tightly. "You're the bravest person I know. And the most stubborn. I learned from Mom." The last thing I remember before the anesthesia took hold was Dmitri in the pre-op room next to mine. They'd wheeled our gurneys close together so we could see each other. "Elena," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "If something goes wrong." "Nothing will go wrong. But if it does, I need you to know." He paused, struggling with words he'd probably never said before. I love you.